All right, good evening, everyone. Can I please have a motion and a second to reconvene the public meeting?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Today, following the Pledge of Allegiance, we will have a moment of silence to honor those who died in the recent Georgia high school shooting. We will honor the memory of those lost on September 11th, 2001, and honor our servicemen and women. Can we please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the district clerk pro temp please call the roll?
Mr. Fasano. Ms. Torregrossa. Present. Ms. DiLorenzo. Present. Ms. Napolitano-Ferno.
Present.
Ms. Mallon.
Present.
Dr. Centimore.
Present.
Ms. Iannatelli.
Present.
Mr. Kolahifar.
In the building.
Ms. Coffey. Present. Mr. Hauser.
Present.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the August 27, 2024 meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, motion carries. So in keeping with our discussion last board meeting, we will have 2 open public comment sessions. This is our first public comment session. I will now open the floor for the public comment portion of the agenda. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping up to the podium. You should have received a number card from security on your way in. If you have not, please see a security guard in the back of the room. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president. Comments shall be kept as brief as possible and relate to school matters only. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for 1 or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. The use of foul language and threatening comments will not be tolerated, and the board will consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance with policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If there are additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend the time. This would also be a good time for consent agenda items, as there will not be another public comment prior to that. Number 1.
The reason I'm here is because I really want you to understand how your actions are experienced by someone who loves a trans kid. That this book, guideline, policy, whatever you want to call it, created by Albany with New York State educators, psychologists, social workers, doctors, and lawyers, put forth the best practices of how to alleviate the harm trans and LGBTQ kids face. They're also very clear on the statistical analysis of that harm. So the goal for Albany was that when a district got this policy book, they would say, oh my God, those poor kids, let's help them. Instead, Connecticut says, let's spend a year seeking legal advice so we do not have to abide by it. So I have a problem with that as a grandma of a trans kid. So trans kids are essentially facing a 5-alarm fire in terms of what they face in school. Other kids are not facing that 5-alarm fire. And when the fire truck goes to the house on fire, it doesn't go to all the houses on the block. It knows that it needs to go to one house that is on fire and take care of it. So the removal of part of the new non-discrimination policy set forth by you guys, when it removed that word transgender, it demonstrated to me that you really don't get it. You don't get that these kids are in really trouble and they need help. By putting them with all kids, it was just disgraceful. Could be legal, could be very legal, but that doesn't mean it's ethical, moral, or even helpful. In addition, I have to get my glasses on, the case-by-case scenario regarding notifying parents if a student confides a gender issue to a teacher or other school personnel is dangerous. Page 16 and 18 of this policy warns of this danger. Only a child knows if he or she has a safe home environment, and only the child should determine who can know their gender issues. Allowing teachers and other school personnel to make that decision again demonstrates your unawareness of trans and LGBTQ issues. The scary facts in this guidebook should have a BOE spending a year designing ways to help LGBTQ and trans kids, and perhaps add the words to the policy, follow New York State guidelines in regard to LGBTQ students and in the non-discrimination policy. The sad fact here is that after my 3 minutes are up, you're going to say thank you. Next number, please. You will not say, how can this board help trans and LGBTQ kids? And a board that supports all kids would say that. Thank you.
So I do appreciate you coming and expressing your concerns with us. Our purpose, as far, I will speak for myself, when we changed the wording, was to encompass all children and not to diminish the transgender, but I will allow our legal counsel to speak more on it.
Okay, well, from my point of view, you certainly did, and it was actually insulting.
I do apologize you felt that way.
So just from a legal standpoint, it is legal. The language that was originally in there comes from the New York State School Boards Association. In their recommendation to school districts, they note that such language, just to say the words transgender, is optional. So that entire sentence is optional from the New York State School Boards Association. So in fact, the district has gone above and beyond by adopting that language to include all students. And I would note, the policy does still specifically say transgender students as being protected.
I'm very familiar with the policy, but I still stand where I said if you really cared, you'd have more in there about transgender kids. And you'd be asking me, hey, Dad, why don't you come to a meeting or something so we could create these policies for these kids? I don't see it happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2. Number 3? All right. So I'm going to move on. There will be another public comment portion session following. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of policy 0115, student harassment, hazing, and bullying? Motion.
Second.
Anybody have any questions? Oh, I have it.
Yeah, I have 1,500.
That was taken.
There's no policy.
It was not taken out. Just kidding. That's for the next meeting. Sneak preview. We're having
We
a.
only have 1,500 on
We have a policy.
We have a committee meeting coming up.
All right. So we're up to discussion items, right? Do I have the wrong agenda? We're up to discussion items. Okay. Dr. Centimore.
Thank you very much. So we acknowledged it during the moment of silence, but tomorrow, September 11th, is Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance. Our students across the district have been and will be participating in age-appropriate and respectful learning activities. Yesterday, for example, actually today, Sycamore had a Tunnels to Towers presentation that was very moving. OBMS has beautiful display of flags across their long lawn, other schools as well. So on this day, we remember those who have fallen, both on that day as well as the years since due to related illnesses, as well as those who made the ultimate sacrifice in the subsequent defense of our nation. So on behalf of a grateful school district, we express our sincere appreciation to all of our first responders, as well as our military personnel. I want to thank our outstanding students, some are in the audience today, our dedicated staff, and supportive parents and community for a really wonderful start to the school year. We want to promote open lines of communication and be an active and viable resource to our families. So if any needs or questions arise, please don't hesitate to contact your child's teacher or the school. Always know Dr. C is here for you as well. In addition to addressing our students' academic and wellness needs, please be assured that safety is always paramount. Certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and their families in Georgia. To help set minds at ease, our security team will present on the district security measures at the next board meeting on September 24th, and we appreciate them. And obviously, safety and security is always a team effort, and it's always a top priority here in Connecticut. September is Ice Up Goes Purple Month to promote substance abuse awareness as well as to celebrate recovery. On September 19th, you're encouraged to wear purple in recognition. The fall is a beautiful as well as busy time of year. Our open houses have begun. Both middle schools had well-attended events last evening. This is a wonderful way to make our families feel both welcomed as well as vital partners in the educational process. Please check the district calendar for your child's school's dates and time. The high school will host theirs this Thursday evening. This Saturday at the public library is Community Wellness Day. There will be over 40 wellness vendors. Thank you to everyone in student services, the public library, yes, and all of our participating community organizations and agencies. Connecticut continues to be at the forefront of our students' health and wellness. Our seniors are off to a fun and memorable start. They painted their parking spots and they have their upcoming traditional senior breakfast. Very exciting. Our athletics are in full swing at all 3 secondary schools, and we encourage you to come out and support our student athletes. Next week, Ms. Poppy and I will be attending a Blue Ribbon Forum on the high school graduation measures, and we certainly will report back the state's status on this very, very important topic. At the high school and across the district, everyone is getting very excited for homecoming, which will take place on Saturday, September 21st, with a morning parade led by our marching band, followed by the big game. Each grade is preparing their floats. This event brings our community together while welcoming home our graduates. The day before, the high school will hold their exciting pep rally with T-Bird Pride on full display. Later in the month, I know the high school, in collaboration with Sable, has the College Fair Night. We're looking forward to that as well. And certainly as we advance into the month, there will be other great events, including a number of exciting Honor Society inductions as we celebrate our students' academic achievements. Thank you and enjoy the start to the fall.
Thank you, Dr. Centimore. I see student government is in the audience. Typically, it's the second meeting of the month that they start, but if everybody's okay, I'll have them come up and say what they have to say. Come on up, ladies.
Or just stand up and get a round of applause if you like. Come on up to the mic. We appreciate you.
So next weekend is homecoming, and we're all very excited for our parade and our dance. And on Friday is pep rally, so the classes have their stuff coming together. And the theme is stories, books
to
movies. So we're all very excited. Our theme is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So Willy Wonka. Chocolate. So we're all very excited, and we're just getting ready for our Spirit Week and our homecoming dance. Tickets are $25.
The homecoming dance is Saturday of homecoming, right?
At
Or
6:30
next Saturday.
this Saturday.
This
Homecoming dance this Saturday at 6:30.
this Saturday, the 14th?
Very short notice.
Oh, that is quick. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, ladies.
See, the wellness continues. They go to the fair and then they go get some exercise at the dance.
All right, we
Thank you.
have Board of Ed topics, website update, Ms. Iannatelli.
Wait, I just had a question, board committee reports?
That's after.
Oh,
I know it was
mine
switched on the
before.
agenda. Do I have the wrong
All
agenda?
right, I'm sorry, okay.
What am I
Well,
following?
well, let me just say the committee reports. I'll,
right.
I
Christina,
just
do you
have one
have it?
question.
All right.
My question is, community members want to know how they can find out about the committee meetings. Is it sent through an email? Is it on the website? Are we sending it through Parent Square? Because many are not aware that we have meetings for all different, aspects of our curriculum and, the drug and alcohol and all these things. And I just would like to point out some, though, you can't just join, you have to join as a representative like the PTA or something like that. But they would like to know, even the food committee, people didn't know it was going to be on the 16th. How do they get that information? If you don't have the answer, you can answer next time, but you do.
I don't want to speak for Mr. Hauser, but I will say that we haven't done really a post for the curriculum committee, at least since we started. Last year, it was sort of a come one, come all invitation with the existing committee members to kind of spread the word. But I can certainly put something out there on our website if there are people who are interested in joining us. We haven't set an initial meeting date yet. I'm just waiting for one piece of information, but I can certainly accomplish that.
I also want to
If we
piggyback.
could do that, across the board with all the committees that
That's what-
the community can join without being part of a
That's what I was
particular group, I would appreciate it.
I'd like to even go one step further and send an email to the parents with all of the committees that they are allowed to join, because they're not, like, obviously, the emergency management, we already have one parent, and that's the parent representative. Things like that, where, like you're saying, like the curriculum, the alcohol. I know last year we had a few community members, and I asked for the drug and alcohol, and they said to me, oh, anybody can join. But not everybody knew that. There was also some issues with, and I'm going to bring that up after when we get to it for cell phones, that there was the shared decision-making, and I want to see the minutes. Some parents reached out to me and said, where are the minutes from all these committee meetings? So that needs to be more transparent, whether it's out on the website, whether we have to have a place where we are able to get those out. There should not be any reason why any parent can't access those online, especially the ones like that. I didn't even know I'm on the school board for all these years, and I didn't even have a clue that we had this. And then I was told that it's only 8 or 12 parents, and how were they selected? It was by one of those Google forms that they send, or the online, and it was like 2 questions. Either way, I don't think that we should have the committee, and each year you have parents graduating, their children graduating, they leave the district. We have new parents coming in, kindergarten, new parents moving in. They should have an opportunity the first month of school, if they want to join a committee. The committee shouldn't be that they just keep on running endlessly with the same people.
So I'll speak in general terms, during my first year last year, one of the things as I was getting a lay of the land in Connecticut and getting feedback, one of the things that I picked up upon is that the structure of our shared decision-making teams wasn't quite where it needed to be, especially universally across the district. So Ms. Poppy in the curriculum office, the principals report directly under her. Of course, the entire cabinet works with all of our principals. So that became one of the areas of focus as we are finishing last school year and starting this school year, to have the right structure in place and formal minutes being one of them. In terms of the selection process, how various stakeholders, and that was another piece too, was to make sure that truly was across all 10 schools a cross-representation of stakeholders. So really dotting the i's and crossing the t's with the shared decision-making process. I know in terms of stakeholder selection, that's an area that the curriculum office has been working with the principals as well.
Okay, the next two are transparency and open meetings law. That was actually.
Wait, I didn't do the
Wait, we
website
were-
yet.
yeah.
I just did board committee.
Okay.
report.
Does anybody else have anything for board committee reports? Ms. DiLorenzo, do you want to mention the?
And Dr. C mentioned Community Wellness Day, so of course I don't mind mentioning it again. Yeah, it's this Saturday, so the 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. next door to Connecticut Public Library, and I hope to see everybody there. Last year we had about 400 people. It was an incredible event. There'll be vendors here. There'll be vendors and tables inside the library and also different events in different rooms in all different areas. It's a wonderful event and it's very informative. There's a lot to learn from all of our vendors. They range from mental health, physical health, everything you could think of. So I definitely stop by. And again, the committee that I've been working with is absolutely incredible. They're wonderful people. It's a branched off from the Mental Health Advisory Council, and it's an incredible committee. These people have worked very hard all summer long to make this event happen. So hope to see everybody there. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to Board of Ed topics. We have website update, Ms. Iannatelli.
So several times, community members and board members have discussed our website and how it is not up to date. So now that school started, I'm on the website more, frequently, and I noticed also this week that it is so outdated. I did go on today, just so you know, and I did see updates on the high school, so I was actually very happy that I saw that. But, we are pushing, and I want everybody in the community to know, for these updates and for the website to be more user-friendly. And, we have things on there from 2020, I believe, and we are cleaning it up. At the last meeting, we just discussed emails and how some parents struggle with the teacher emails. So I'm actually going to turn it over and let Reza tell everybody the update.
So we did discuss with the administrators and making sure that they're getting in their areas and updating the teachers, the programs, anything that they feel they need to update. And as Ms. Iannatelli has pointed out, some have gotten that done. We're going to try to shoot for the end of September. I just needed to give everybody a little time, but we're ultimately going to have that as up to date as possible.
So essentially, the elementary schools will have a listing of teacher name, and the secondary schools by grade level, and the secondary schools like by department, because the vast majority of our emails work off first initial and last name. And so now people, even though the email itself may not be listed as per contract, but the name will be there so a parent can know. And I also believe that in the Google Classroom, you could also do a direct communication, to a teacher. There's some other, I don't know if you want to.
I'm just going to show, and I don't know if you can even see this at home, but if you maybe zoom in, this is a director. Yeah, it's a director, but it's not the correct one. Like this will be, it's an example. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. I apologize. An example of what it's going to look like. And if anybody ever had one of the old school calendars from back in the day, this is one of the pages where it actually had the principals of every school, athletic director, their phone numbers, their email. So this will be on the website, which I think is we appreciate it and appreciate you guys listening to us and the community.
Thank you.
One
Mr.
second. Outside of the website, we were just talking about committee updates. There's literally a section on board docs under library that says Board of Education committees with one committee from 2019 on it. So we could just very easily utilize what's existing and maybe get something a little more up to date than 2019 on there.
Maybe put the minutes there. I mean, it'd be a good idea. Like I said, the minutes should be, I want to see the minutes for the last year for all of the different committees. I'd actually like that for the next board meeting so that we can get a little bit more acclimated with, I know we had some of them was sent to us, but not all. Like I said, this shared decision, I'd like to see that one ASAP.
All right, so not every committee may have minutes. That's one of the things that, we picked up upon and we're putting this structure in place, particularly with shared decision. No.
So are there any minutes for shared decision or no? It was just a meeting of parents and staff and we didn't take any minutes, but there seems to be a disconnect because on social media, I had somebody telling me that I should look for these minutes because where are the minutes if a couple of parents are talking about it? There's no transparency at all. How can we be implementing things if you don't even have the minutes to say, hey, this is where the ideas came from?
So for this year, again, one of our areas of focus is to make sure that there are formal minutes, particularly for those shared decision-making committees. Last year, not every meeting may have formal minutes. Yeah.
If I may, I'm sorry, Mrs. Mallon. Just one more comment about our website. So at the conclusion of this school year, Syntax will be pulling back its offering of website hosting. So we will be switching to a new website host. And our Director of Instructional Technology will be seeking to develop a subcommittee from the Technology Advisory Committee dedicated to launching a new website. So a committee within a committee that is focused solely on website reconstruction, taking a look at the components that are important to committee members. We'd like a nice cross-section. Certainly when we do that advertisement of committee meeting dates, we'll be sure to include that information so that if anyone is interested, they'll know how to join and when those particular meetings are scheduled for.
Thank you. And just on the website, Mr. Kohler-Heifer, do you know if it'll extend to coaches also? Because a lot of them are outside of the district.
We did ask Mr. Mallory to make sure that he puts the coaches, the sport they're coaching, what building they're in, as well as the contact information for them.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next, we have transparency and open meetings law. Ms. Napolitano-Fernal.
I felt it was important that we should have a meeting and bring more transparency and provide detailed information about the goals, mission, and vision of our school district to parents and stakeholders. I advocated strongly to have a public open discussion for all to attend and view at their leisure rather than a retreat. Jackie DiLorenzo and myself both feel it is important to hear parents out and clarify any questions or concerns, especially about the goals of our district, and help steer Connecticut into a more positive direction. I'm disappointed, and I am sorry, that the board president and vice president decided to hold a meeting and unilaterally decide to not have a district clerk or pro temp present to take minutes to share with the district, and decided unilaterally to not live stream the board goals meeting as well. I have always felt it is important to promote transparency, even leaving a meeting during COVID when I had other board members who did not want to come back to in person, and I wanted to come back in person after the staff had come back to in person. The next meeting, after leaving that meeting, we returned in person. Like I said, I've always felt it's important to provide transparency, communication, and a sense that we're all in this together with our community, parents, stakeholders, and employees of the district. Open and honest dialogue about board goals, district goals, superintendent goals, and the vision and mission statement deserves an immediate and public discussion for the benefit of our entire district, especially since I have been advocating for this publicly at board meetings for more than 3 years now. Even though I am part of a board, I was elected as an individual to try to bring more transparency and provide a platform for the parents and community to provide their input as well. I want to take this opportunity to thank Jackie D, because she shares these views and is always thinking of the kids first and foremost. It is not my intent to sit on a divided board, but one must question, how can you unify a Board of Education if select Board of Ed members pick and choose what we share with other board members and the community? We walked into the board goals meeting and there was not, in our opinion, a very open meeting. As per open meetings law, we did not have a live stream, which is what is presumed by our district and our parents, because all of our meetings are live streamed. We were unaware. I can't speak for any of the other board members. We were unaware, Jackie and I. And like I said, we walked into what looked like a retreat. We did not agree to a retreat. We agreed to a board goals work session that was going to be publicly, which I had told the superintendent that I strongly was advocating for a live stream because I wanted the community to see this is a positive thing that the community could have been a part of. But instead, the meeting only lasted 20 minutes and we ended it. Like I said, I would like to see us reevaluate, us have a district clerk there, us pay for the live stream, because I don't have any issue with us paying for a live stream. That was something that was said, that you guys didn't want to pay for the live stream. I never heard of such a thing, and we would never even asked. So like I said, in the future, I would like those kind of decisions to be brought to the board, not just one or two members making that decision. And then also, let's have another one, but let's do it the right way, where We invite the public, not just we put out a letter and then we're telling people they can stay home and they can watch the live stream. And then we get here and there's no live stream.
So I was actually going to say this later, but our district clerk has gotten another job. So the day of that board goals meeting was her last day. So instead of having her stay for the night, I told her I would take the minutes down. All we were doing was noting who opened the session and who closed the session and at what time said sessions were opened and closed. I did not share that with the board. I didn't feel like it was pertinent. Perhaps hindsight is 2020. As far as live streaming it, yes, I did also decide to not live streaming. It wasn't a public meeting where action was being taken. It was considered a work session. We had announced it at the meeting prior, just 2 days before. It was open to the public. It had been posted to the public. There was no malice in not live streaming it, but I do see Jackie's point, and perhaps we could all do better going forward.
Let's just find another meeting. Let's just do it that way and we all move on from it.
Sounds good.
Hold on. Just before anything, the only thing I want to say is that I get it. I was there. I know what happened, but I can speak for myself and I'm not going to speak on behalf of you guys. Like, I also care about kids and parents and their opinions and their views, because the way that that came out, whether or not intended, was just like kind of gated to only you guys cared about it. And I don't like the way that sounded. So like, again, I'm all for sitting down, doing it again, streaming it, not streaming it. Please, everybody come, especially after the fact that we tried to do this once and couldn't get it done. So I would love if people come for this one, because it at least makes it all for something, what we did, and not accomplish anything. So when we have the information about it, I am begging the community to come be a part of our goals so that you can hold us accountable, because you voted to put us here.
Being that this was something that, as you know, we were very vocal. I was very vocal at the board goals meeting. And I will say that I sat in a chair and was and don't know how to live stream. So I was videoing, saying I'll video and I'll post it for everybody. And then I realized it's not my job to do that. It was and that's why I told you guys, it's against open meetings law. It's against, we're violating so many different things, trying to have a retreat without the board agreeing to a retreat. The board is, without 3 people consenting at a consensus, without us sitting as a board, no one board member can make any decisions, not even the board president. There's supposed to be decisions made by all of us. That's the whole thing that I think everyone's losing sight of. And I understand that there's not a lot of, and I'm not saying this, I know people take it like it's disrespectful. There's not a lot of experience, and I get that. I actually just said that to the attorney. I said, I don't blame everybody. There's not a lot of experience. People don't understand. I get it. But at the same time, you did say to me, and you did say to Jackie when we were in here helping you clean up, you said, I'm sorry, I didn't know. So in 100%, I will say that. But I can only speak for someone who gave me permission to speak for them. Jackie did, knowing that I was going to speak, so I only spoke on her behalf.
Right, that's what I was saying. I just wanted to, like, because that was a conversation that none of us, which is fine, that's within your right, like, you two to have a conversation. I just wanted it to make sure that I was saying that it wasn't that, at least me, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of anyone else, although I can assume, like, I too care, right? Like, I just did not want it to come across as, like, this was a 2-person conversation and the 3 of us were just like, we don't care.
Totally respect that. My feelings, I've been here a while, that I've worked with a lot of different board members. Never in the history that I've been on this board has any one board member made a decision, and it's not disrespectful to you guys. Maybe it was done unintentionally. I'm not saying it's intentional, but it was done in a way that made us feel uncomfortable when we walked in. And I just had told several parents, which is what I told you guys, that I had told several parents, you don't have to come 2 nights in a row, 2 back-to-back, 2 different Tuesday, Thursday. I said, just watch it on the live stream. And if you can't watch it because your kids are playing sports, watch it another time. Some people really are interested in that. It was a positive meeting. Board goals, I've done this before. So board goals, mission statement, vision, this is all stuff that's important. And it's actually something you want your community to be a part of. That's why I said I wanted to see a committee. This is something that you don't want to hide behind closed doors, because at a retreat, you can do that. And I wasn't going to agree to a retreat after I've done 2 and witnessed how bad they are when you don't have people buying in. I will only do a retreat if this board absolutely bought in and came to the table without there being such dysfunction. There's not. And I'm not saying I'm not part of that. I'm saying it comes from everybody. So in the future, if you guys want to do a board retreat, just ask. Ask if the board will do it instead of assuming that when we walk in, we want to walk into something that looks like a retreat. Because it looked like a retreat, and I'm the only one that's done it.
Well, the intention was not to have it look like a retreat or be a retreat. It was to have it be a work session where we would discuss our board goals. It was open to the public and it was not live stream. I will take responsibility for that. And, hopefully we could do better next time.
Absolutely.
And while we are on the subject of the district clerk, she has moved on. So for the public and anybody wishing to email Ms. Kemp, Ms. Incerillo is the interim for now until we do find another district clerk. So she is kincirillo@ccsdli.org. First day of school, Ms. Napolitano-Ferno.
I want to thank Dr. Centimore. This is year 2 with him that I've gotten to go around to the schools. We visited every school on the first day of school. I have to say, I've said this before, I think I say it every year. For the last 5 or 6 years, I've taken off from work for the first day of school. It's something that I enjoy. I love seeing the little kids when your kids are in high school and they no longer want you to walk them to the bus stop or have fun with them taking pictures or anything. You enjoy going to the schools the first day and seeing all the little guys and little girls, and they were so precious. I cannot tell you how cute. It was amazing. And that's like my favorite, one of my favorite times, that and the Halloween parade I'll be taking off for too. I love that stuff. That's the good stuff that you get to do. Like when people say, why, Jackie, are you still on the board? I said, because this is the good stuff. This is the stuff you get to go see the kids happy, the staff happy. You get to go and we walk through the hallways. We welcomed all the staff back. Every staff member, every student we saw, we said, welcome back, have a great school year, and we 100% mean it. I hope that they have a spectacular school year filled with great memories, learning, and just fun, completely enjoying themselves. I know I loved Connecticut when I was there, and I hope they all do too.
Thank you. Cell phones and letter, Ms. Napolitano-Ferno.
Okay, they're two different, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with letter first. So in 2022, we did a welcome back letter to the staff and students. Do you remember? You're on it. You signed it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I would love for us to have kept up with that. I was disappointed that we didn't do that. I understand we had a lot going on or whatever the case may be. I would like to see us do welcome back letters if we don't do it this year because it's now past opening. For next year, we should make that something that we always do. I know that the superintendent does it, but the board should do their own. We always
Do
did our
you want what you're asking is for the board to do their own, or would you like to do one in collaboration with the superintendent? It's for the board's consideration.
It's up to the board, but we did ours. I think we were by ourselves. I have copies of them I can send you. I know
think
you
we
all.
did do a separate one as the board, welcoming everybody.
And we did a separate one for the kids and the parents, and we did a separate one for the staff. I just think, and I have to tell you, I remember the staff telling me in 2022, they thought it was like the nicest thing when we did that. They thought that it was very nice to see a board that welcomed them back. So in the future, I just think it would be a good thing for us to do again. As for cell phones, very, very controversial issue. We're seeing it all over the nation, all over the United States. Are cell phones a distraction? Sure they are. I deal with it in a different profession with distracted drivers. But there's also another piece to it that we need to realize that our kids walked in on the first day of school to a new program, what's called a building practice. It was not a policy. So the board was not aware of it, or at least I know I wasn't aware of it, so I'll speak for myself. And as a parent, I don't like it, and as a board member, I don't like it. And I'll tell you why. I don't have an issue with phones being taken away from students while they're in class. I have an issue with how this was implemented. I have an issue with, I have asked administration at the building level, administration at CO, who is liable? Who's liable for this? A kid's phone breaks. I know, I could tell you my own experience. You already know this. A kid takes it out of the shoe holder, puts it back in the wrong way, and it hit the floor. First day of school, cracked not the screen, but the screen protector. True story. So when I ask what's the liability, that's a serious question. What is the liability? I mean, I want to know, is the underwriter going to come in and audit for insurance coverage of 25 phones worth $25,000 in how many classes? Is the insurance going to come in and do that? Because that's a big sell. Who's responsible for that? It's certainly not going to be, well, the parents let them bring. I know that some board members had said, well, the parents had said that if the parents bring it in, it could be them. No, the parents, we send our kids with a lot of things. I send my kids with a backpack with stuff in their backpack. My kids, if my personal, I'm speaking for myself, if my kids don't take it out, then why are they also part of this new policy or practice at that high school? As far as I'm concerned, if you're going to pilot something, pilot it after, implement it after you have all your bases covered. When I ask a question about liability and I get a whole lot of, Jackie, well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, it depends, case by case basis. Well, what if a kid, you're going to tell me you're going to hold 13 and 14-year-olds that are brand new to the high school, running through hallways their first day, and that's a true story too, running through the hallway to get to class because they're nervous and anxious. We're going to work. You don't think these kids are going to be falling off over each other to try to get their phones? We're losing classroom time. I don't disagree that they're a distraction and should not be used in class. My disagreement is in how it's taken a totally different turn. Other school districts, and I called them and I know, are doing keeping them in their backpacks, and then the backpacks are being put up against the wall or the back of the room. Other districts got cubbies put in their high school, and they're putting their backpack after the phone is in the backpack. It just takes the liability out of the hands of the district, because kids running for their backpacks run into each other. They're not really, the chance of them breaking phones is minimal. The chances of a kid taking the wrong phone, throwing it back in and not intentional, no malice, but it breaks anyway. What are we doing? We keep talking about finding money. We're gonna find the money for this?
All right, so I appreciate the insurance liability question, and I'll pass that baton to Mr. Hauser in a moment. In terms of that question, I certainly own that question, and Mr. Hauser will help me. So I do fully support the high school's initiative with cell phones. Cell phones in schools are, and you said this, they're a national issue. It's something that I know our state is looking at. Not that we want to be, mandated. I know the mandate from the state. Certainly, it's probably something that at the local level we can control. But I do support the high school, and I feel like it's one of those things where we need to have some patience. I do know that they've been actively reviewing and reflecting. They already made a modification on Friday. And when this was first presented to me at the end of the school year, it seemed like a very moderate approach in terms of students weren't being denied having the phone in school. They weren't even being denied having the phone in the classroom. It was just going into the wall hanger. It seemed like a very moderate approach, especially considering, give or take, about a dozen teachers to some degree had been utilizing it for a couple of years. There wasn't really a lot of information beyond that. So if my communication to the board was a little light, again, no ill intention there, and I own that as well. Again, a high school initiative, and I support them, and I do appreciate the fact that the high school administration and the high school staff, they're in collaboration with one another, and they already made a tweak to it, and they're going to live it, and they're going to review it, and where they have to make some modifications, they will. So I appreciate the questions. And now a very good question about liability.
Oh, wait, I want to ask you something
Sure.
else. They changed it after a school shooting. And parents complained because of the increased sense of safety that parents have, knowing their child can reach them in the event of an emergency. That's why it was changed. And it should have been changed proactively, not reactively. I know that I specifically emailed the day before school started before this even got into play, I was already emailing saying I saw a little blurb and it was small. And many parents didn't even know that was happening from a welcome back letter. That practice should have been its own letter. That practice should have been its own letter. That practice should have been that parents knew there should be a waiver that's signed, because you're telling a kid to you're not giving them the option. You're telling them to put their property in something, and if it gets broken, you're saying it is what it is, kind of at the beginning. Then I was told that, like I said, then I was told that as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to this kind of thing, I said from the beginning it was a safety issue. From the beginning, I said it's going to be a safety issue. Yes, you don't want 500 kids calling 911 in the event of an emergency. You absolutely don't. I take that from my law enforcement. But as a parent, you certainly don't want your child also walking around the building in the event of an emergency and no one knows where that kid is. That's just my opinion. It will be my opinion, and I'll stand by it, that there is a different sense of safety to certain children. There's also a mental health piece, which we've had discussions on. Mental health being that, yes, while you don't want kids being bullied by phones and all this other, I understand all of that. I understand the pros of taking a phone away, but I also understand the cons. A child that has any sort of anxiety, and that a phone sometimes for some kids is a comfort. It is, it's a comfort. It's like anything else. They could have their favorite pen. It's a comfort. Whatever it is, that, and I was told this by psychologists and social workers, that it is a comfort for some students, that they know that even if their phone's in their backpack, they know it's not going to, or they think it's not going to get broken while it's in there. So they're not obsessing over what's going to happen to their phone. And they are not too, they're much happier knowing that, well, it's in my backpack. At the next period, I can call mom or dad, or I can text them to make sure. You know, some kids need that reach of, I know I can reach my mom and dad. It's in my bag. It's in my bag. I don't understand if middle school did it that way. And my understanding was, or for people, I didn't hear that there were problems. Now, because of this high school, was hearing that there were problems, there weren't problems. Well, we never heard. In 5 years, I never heard we had issues with cell phones in middle school, because the kids put them in their backpacks. I just don't understand how, when you implement something, and I'm told because it was from a decision, 8 or 12 parents of decision making, that's where it came from. I don't know how this did not go across the district so everyone could have seen what their children were walking into.
I want to piggyback off of that as well. I'm sorry, because I agree with everything you're saying. Another concern that I had with this is, most people, almost everybody is attached to their phone, especially kids. And my fear, other than the fact of there's an emergency, you want to reach your kid, you can't. But if there is an emergency and all these phones are in these shoe holders, kids are, I would imagine, they're not going to run to safety before grabbing their phone. It's going to be chaos to get their phone before they run out of a burning building, God forbid. So I have a lot of concerns about that as well. Just impulse. They'll get up, I need my phone first so I can, whatever they got to do, contact their parents. And then they're in a dangerous situation where they had to get out of the building. There's so many factors, so many things that I feel, like you said, you do this before. You pilot before, you work all these kinks out. I actually remember a brief conversation through the Mental Health Advisory Council last year, and I think it was one of our Zoom meetings. It was a small conversation where this was brought up, Marisol, you might have been in there for that.
I remember the conversation. I know where you're going.
Yeah, and it was, and we briefly discussed it. It was tossed around back and forth, and I understand the distractions, because I was like, yeah, the kids are distracted. I tell my own kid, put your phone away already. But you got to look at it from all those perspectives. And then the conversation kind of just died at that meeting. It didn't
I think
continue.
the idea to do a trial or a mock fire drill to see how the students
We did talk about that. Yes, and I remember that. And then all of a sudden we see this is implemented, and I don't know that any of that even occurred to make sure that it would be okay.
I just don't understand why we're not giving consequences to students who have them out and giving them the opportunity to then be responsible and accountable, holding them accountable.
Okay,
I don't understand. And I also don't
I haven't had
understand.
a turn yet. so
Okay,
we could
well,
decide-
I'm talking.
I know, but if you look at the board rules, it's supposed to be each board member gets a turn and then the
Okay,
person who
but
spoke
you're
first gets
you're
a turn
interrupting
after.
while I'm saying something.
Because I'm letting you know.
Okay, all right, so congratulations. Do you follow all the board rules? You certainly didn't want it live streamed. You didn't follow board rules. So, thank you. And you made your own vote for that one. Either way, so people understand, I'm very clear about both sides. I understand that during a security issue or safety issue, you don't want kids on their phones making the call to 911 and hammering 100%. You also don't want them making noise if you want them to be quiet in the classroom. I know all of the both sides to this. I'm just saying that the way this was implemented and executed was extremely poor planning. And I will stand by that because I have never seen, in all the years that I've even been in Connecticut as a parent, I have never seen something implemented like this and kids being told, go do something, but the parents at home did not know. Parents at home, and then I'm told, go check the welcome. That's what I was told. And now I found out, Jackie sent me the welcome with the little blurb. I said, I looked at it and said, 3 lines is all it got. This is going to be a controversial issue. And it deserved way more than 3 lines. Poor planning, poor implementation, and I'm very happy with the high school making the modification, but I would have liked that to have been looked at before it was even implemented. And I, again, am not for kids putting their property in something that if they don't want to, that we parents have not approved. It breaks, we're responsible.
I fully support the decision of the high school to implement this. I think that having a phone in the classroom is a huge distraction. I have seen my own children, I'd just like to point out that the first 2 who went through were not allowed to have cell phones in school. They actually weren't allowed to have them in class, the backpack, anything. They had to keep them in their locker. If you saw them in the hallway, if you saw them anywhere, you'd get in trouble. So I just would like to point that out. That was many years ago, but that was the rules. We had COVID, we kind of, came back a little bit here, and now I think we're trying to get back to some rules in the school. In life, there are always rules, and it doesn't matter if you're in school, you're in college, you're at a job, there's rules and they get enforced. As for the anxiety, I will say that my own child has a lot of anxiety. She would text me a lot, and I'd get many pictures, texts, everything. Due to the fact of this rule, she is not texting me. It's healthier for her to get through a school day. It's healthier for her to focus on what she's supposed to be doing, because in life, you're not always going to have that crutch. And so far, I'm really happy. I'd like to also point out that many teachers last year had cell hotels, and kids had to put their phones in their hotels last year. I'd like to point out, throughout all these years of having all my children, there was times the teacher had a basket. And you talk about just phones all had to be put in the same basket as you walked in the class. And then when you left class, you were allowed to take them. Parents didn't complain. These things happened. They've been happening. Just because we as a board might not have known these things were happening, they are happening. Many teachers have, throughout the years, found them distracted. Just so everybody knows, too, the New York State PTA does support the limitation of cell phones in the classroom. They have done studies. They see what a big distraction it is for the children. We have Chromebooks that the kids have access to if they need to do schoolwork. They don't need a phone to research or look up things. They can do it on the Chromebook. So I just would, I don't want to go on and on. I just would like to say that I 100% support the high school and the decision to limit the cell phone use in classrooms.
I totally could understand what you're saying about years ago, because any of us would say, can very easily say, we did it and we survived. Nobody had cell phones when I went to high school. Unfortunately, today has gotten considerably dangerous. The times they've changed. So but I understand all of that. I just think with the safety issue and the other thing, yes, they do, some teachers did have them over the years, but I think it wouldn't be such a bad idea to see what works. Like, why not have different things? Some teachers, if they want it, just the same way that students all have different learning abilities and different needs, teachers have different ways that work better for them to discipline and to run their class. You may have a teacher that maybe third period, they don't have to do anything, but fourth period, they don't stop with their phones. So fourth period, you got to put your phones away. You know, have that flexibility to allow the staff to manage their own classes, give them that responsibility so they can discipline appropriately or just run their class according to what works best for them. Every teacher has their own methods of teaching as well, just like students have their own ways of learning.
The reality is, I spoke to some of the educators because they reached out to me. And not everybody's on board with this, just like not all the board members agree. So we can look at it from all different sides. There have been many statistics, and yes, they are distractive. We know this. No one's taking that away. I would never shy away from that. But in life, what are we teaching them? So if you're distracted by the phone at school, we're going to make you put it in a shoe holder. This isn't even anything. This is not something that is secured for cell phones. This is a shoe holder. Okay, let's be clear on something. Number two, you don't implement pilots without knowing who's responsible and accountable and where the liability is for items that are $1,000 a piece. These are not items that are $100 anymore. They are my daughter's broke 2-3 weeks ago, $850 for a phone that's like 3 back. So what do you think the brand new phones are? Over $1,000. And we're not talking about, no one is saying that students should have them out on their desk. What we're saying is students should have to be accountable, responsible, and the parents should be able to say, hey, if it gets taken away, put in an envelope and parents come and get the phone if it's out. You know, there are consequences to things. In life, there are consequences. We're not teaching about consequences. We're saying, hey, put them in a shoe holder, and if something happens, we're all just going to throw our hands up and say, hey, it's the parents' responsibility. No, it is not. Parents did not give permission for this. Parents did not have a say in this. This was strictly high school doing something, and we did not get notified other than a 3-line blurb. Totally unacceptable. There was no transparency in that. And what some teachers did, and I heard this from them themselves, with that in their room, said, I never had any problems. And if I did have a problem, that's when I told the kid they had to put theirs in it. It was never everyone has to do this and let's waste class time calling kids up one by one to put it in. Some classes I heard were doing it that way. I've heard all different ideas. I also heard that in a couple of the freshman classes, they were falling over each other to get the phones. And yes, phone screens broke, April. Phone screen protectors. First day of school.
I am at the point where I feel like the fact that we're still going in circles about this, I just want to throw it out there that as I'm listening to everybody, I don't even think we realize what we do sometimes. And I'm just going to speak for me as somebody who was listening to everybody go. If the concern is that putting them in the shoe holder could have a liability on us for breaking them, so could putting them in a cubby or a backpack in the back of the classroom. If a kid stomps on the backpack, the phone's in the backpack. They were required to put it in the back of the classroom. It breaks. Who's like we still end up in that circle, so that doesn't solve for it. I think it would be a really dangerous water to tread in to leave it up to like class by class basis, because you're going to have the guidance office flooded with kids looking to switch to the class where they're allowed to have the cell phone out. Like it is going to be a lineup. They're going to need to take a number to get to their guidance counselor for that. I think it needs to be consistent. And April kind of hit on this a little bit with like, such as what lesson are we teaching? Discipline isn't always the answer. There needs to be accountability, I believe, but it's not going to necessarily work if somebody doesn't care about getting in trouble. They're going to pull the phone out. And that's also taking away from class time, where I think that if somebody is anxious because they don't have their phone, I would much rather see the student utilize something like our wellness suite or like some of the resources we have available for mental health in the school, rather than just kind of coddle and be like, because you're anxious, here's like what makes you feel better. But it also, the cell phone's going to take away from the ability to socialize with my peers, right? If my head is buried in my phone because I'm anxious, I'm going to scroll on nothing just to avoid talking to people. So there's like so many layers that are never going to be unpacked like right here, right now. But I do think overall, when you look at, like I spent hours looking at this, and I was looking at some other districts. We do a lot of comparing, and some of the districts that we compare to regularly, that do not allow cell phones are some of those scores and those things that we compare to on the higher end, like Jericho, right? Jericho was just in Newsday for not allowing the phones, and we're talking about how great their testing and their scores are, and a couple of other school names. And I looked, and pretty consistently, a lot of them already have these rules in place for no phones. So maybe that's something we look at. I feel like we're kind of living in a problem here, and I'd like to find what the solution is so that at least people feel more comfortable. But like, such is life. My boss has a lot of rules that I don't like and I don't necessarily want to follow, but I have to because I like my paycheck. So
That's what you just hit on it. We have rules at work. We follow those rules, or we have to face a consequence. We are not giving students that chance. We're just saying, hey, we don't trust any of you to do the right thing. So we're gonna just give everybody the consequence. And that's not the way to do it. It's not a one size fits all. And again, I called many districts, and many districts who are in the high educational numbers, they're using different methods. One's using a clear bag, putting it in their backpack. Some are using ones that are magnetic, even worse off than us. That's an even worse idea, where the phone is like disabled, but it's in their bag. You know why they're doing that? Because they did the research and know it's not the liability of the district. We have shoe holders, and the school is liable. The school is liable because if that breaks or something happens, who's going to be liable? Then we're saying, you said that socialization. I totally agree. If kids are in lunch and they're allowed to use it, they're not socializing. They're using their phones. That's where that would be a problem, but they're allowed to use their phones in lunch. So that whole thing about socialization, out the window. Because in class, you're not going to be socializing. You should be listening. You should definitely not be in class talking to all the kids next to you. This is not elementary school anymore. This is high school. This is where they're in big classes. They're looking at colleges. A lot of these kids, they are, got to be focused. It's just hard stuff. So this is not we're going to socialize while we're in class.
Well, I don't mean let's braid each other's hair and ignore the math lesson. I'm just saying that the same way, right? It's just the circle of it all. There is some socialization that goes on in class, and the same way, yes, they should be paying attention. I sure probably wouldn't if I had my phone while I was in class. If we're being in college, there was times I just was like, wow, I just blacked out for a 3-hour class, scrolling is the God's honest truth. But the other thing is too, I also give some credit to our students. I would be cool with a mock drill to see what happens. I also have enough faith that they wouldn't be the building's on fire, but my iPhone is more important. I have the confidence in a lot of them.
That's your opinion. And that
I am
people
definitely allowed to have that opinion.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. The same
and
way you
that's
guys
your
are.
opinion. But just like I respect you're in the mental health field, I'm in the law enforcement field, and I see something totally different. Okay? I see something totally different. When I said to Dr. Centimore, I said, I just want to know if all these kids, I'm being told something, and then I'm hearing other things, and then I'm thinking, I understand that everybody wants to believe in an emergency situation. We're all going to line up like soldiers, and we're all going to walk out of the building the way that we're supposed to, and that's all good and great. Everyone can believe that if they like. That happens during drills. When the real deal happens, I'm going to tell you something. I hope everyone does what they were learning, but the reality is people's anxiety kicks in, and there is a much different response during an emergency situation. That is a real one once it happens. Just speak to the people who have actually been in them, and they'll tell you how different their classroom looked after one of those active shooters, for instance. Ask them how their classroom looked. It was a lot more anxiety than when we're doing drills.
So I think we just need to agree to disagree. You want to?
I just want to add, because I know we've been on this topic for quite some time. So as a parent, when I first heard about this policy, I was very apprehensive. I didn't know how my kids would react. I didn't know how I would react, but I know that I was willing to give it a chance to see how it would go. I think that it helps their learning. I know that for my own children, I have not gotten a lot of complaints about the cell phone. They're all willing to give it a chance. Let's just give it a chance. Let's see how it goes and hope for the best.
I wanted to
Can you
just say
tell
one more
us
quick thing
the,
about this.
Policy.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I wanted to just say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I'm still speaking about that.
I was getting my turn because I still
and I-
didn't get my turn after Melissa, but
So I don't have the mental health background. I don't have the law enforcement background, but as a parent, I certainly have that background. And I do see the urgency to get the phone. My one thing is just the last little thing, since I know some people are in a rush, maybe they want to watch the debate tonight. But my last little thing that I wanted to just say is if students have been through RMS and OBMS with that particular method, I just why not continue exactly that instead of when they come to the high school, we're using this as a disciplinary measure when what did they do wrong? All they did was walk into their classroom and then they got to put their phone back. Just a last thought that it worked in the middle schools. Why not continue it for the high school?
I'm just going to have one little blurb before I let Bob speak, who I know you've been waiting patiently. My daughter subbed in the high school last year in the spring semester. And she was appalled at how many kids had earbuds in, listening to their phones. She'd speak to them. They didn't even know she was speaking to them in the class, in the hall. She could not believe how much the culture has changed. So to see this improvement this year, that means that administration, staff, everyone has now seen the same things that someone who was only there for a short period of time saw, and they were willing to work together and make this change for the better of our students. And even though there could be liabilities and this and that, our first thing is education of the student. And we're trying our best, well, I'll say the high school is trying their best to give them the most opportunity they can to learn during that small period of time for each class. So like I said, I truly support it. And Bob, I'll let you give the...
Yeah, let me just say before Bob speaks about the insurance that the drill safety component is being looked at by the administration, so that it's absolutely being addressed.
Okay, so I did speak to our insurance representative from NYSER specifically regarding cell phones and damage to students' cell phones. The district has what's called a property and casualty policy that covers damage to the district's property as well as to property of others. In any event where there's damage to property that is not owned by the district, okay, there would be a claim that's filed for each particular instance, and it's up to the insurance company to decide if that particular claim is to be covered. So, for example, if in a classroom a student drops their own cell phone, okay, more than likely the insurance company would not cover that. That's not something that the district caused. Not a direct cause and effect, so to speak. If it was a staff member who took a student's cell phone and then that cell phone was subsequently dropped and damaged, that's different. That would more than likely be covered. So there's no deductible on our policy for damage to other person's property. So we wouldn't have to, in a sense, shell out of our own pocket, the district's pocket, for damage that would not be covered, that would be covered under the policy. So it is somewhat of a case by case. It would depend exactly what happened, the specific facts to the damage to a student's cell phone.
Can you have a rep from the insurance company invite them to one of our board meetings? Because I would like to know, is the underwriter going to come in and audit for insurance coverage of 25 phones worth $25,000 in how many classes? I want to hear it from them. I want to know what, because we accessed people and positions and then brought almost all of them back. If this year is a bigger problem with finances, where are we finding this money? I mean, I want to advocate for music programs. I have another thing coming up here. I keep on asking for more and more and more programs. And I don't want to see people get accessed. That's another story in itself. Get accessed and then brought back weeks later. That's like, I don't want to see all this happening and then find out that we have, we don't even know if we have liability on this. And Bob, this isn't against you because this is a building level issue. I understand that CO is going to fall on the sword or do whatever. But at the end of the day, a practice was made in a building, any building, and that practice was not implemented or executed with all bases covered. So I shouldn't have to be asking about insurance, and neither should other parents who were going wild on social media, which they had a right to. Some of them have 100% right when they say, why did this become such a big issue after the Georgia shooting? This should have been something that security was involved in. They weren't. Mental health should have been involved in. They weren't. CO should have been completely involved, meaning that our business officials should have at least been aware of having to look for insurance. Again, this reminds me of the flags years ago with the American flags at the high school, where we had to, we didn't plan correctly and we had to come in and we had to pay for some things. I just don't want to see that done. I do not want to see us get, and I'm telling you right now, if another kid threw another kid's phone, I was asking just an insurance person that I deal with for a lot of things at work, and he said to me point blank, he said, Jackie, if a kid grabs a kid's phone out of the shoe holder, throws it back in a shoe holder, it hits the floor, you're going to try to collect money from that kid who unintentionally grabbed the phone by accident, no malice, or is the district going to pay for it? Or is the parent whose phone broke going to pay for it? You got 3 different instances. None of it is good. So my point is, that's why I've said I'm 100% for phones being away and consequences being given and bags being moved away from kids so they can't have their hands in their bags grabbing their phones. I am not for the district taking liability and responsibility of $1,000 items of students.
And so I'm definitely not falling on the sword. Looking at a district liability is something that is superintendent. A light bulb should have went on. I should have went to Bob and said, you know what, let's just look at the liability of this. So I accept that. I think Bob, Mr. Howes, I think what might be good for the board is if our insurance provider maybe can even give you like a memo on this. Kind of like what we get oftentimes when we get legal guidance from Gerso and Gerso, maybe the insurance provider can give a formal memo and then we could forward it to the board.
And I'm happy to review that as well.
Yeah, it'd be good to have in writing. Wouldn't it be good for us to have in writing for the liability purposes? Yeah, see?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Field lights, Ms. Napolitano.
Parents had reached out about field lights. They were concerned about a lot, and I know this has been a concern for a couple of years with, I didn't know if we had the ability to have those single ones with I know you said that wouldn't, the generators. If there was any way to help field hockey, lacrosse, I heard soccer. Again, I haven't been over there yet to see it, but I will take the next home games. I'll try to make it there. But I wanted to see what they were all talking about. I'm very happy to see what we're doing with the baseball. What I advocated for last year, I see what we're trying to do with the baseball and make it safer. I would love to see what we can do with this, because I think it's unfair to not make it equitable across sports and make it so that these sports don't get cut short. It's unfair to them.
All right, so yes, the situation with the fall athletics, particularly some of the JV teams, particularly field hockey, the challenge of when the clocks get set back, the challenge for some of our opponents who are coming here, their availability of buses and the impact of time. Even just today, our boys soccer game was delayed about a half an hour because the other team just couldn't get here sooner. So what the athletic department has done, especially with field hockey, especially with JV field hockey, is look to utilize the main turf field. And it is a multi-purpose field. And by the way, it's not just athletics. Our marching band utilizes that field as well. So it certainly has a music and arts component. To utilize the main turf field more, so the athletic department has been working with Section 11, that's the athletic governing body of Suffolk County, has been working with other school districts who we compete against to adjust the schedule. And I believe as of today, we should be good. And I know the focus is really on the JV field hockey in particular. So we should be good in terms of that daylight conflict, because what was happening last year, and again, especially with JV field hockey, was the contests were being cut short. I mean, very short. So in terms of, well, can we just bring out lights out to that upper turf field, if you're familiar with the high school grounds where there's an upper turf field? The issue is mostly the month of October, and it's usually a couple of weeks. And So we had a conversation, myself, athletics, facilities, and Mr. Allen, at some point I'll pass the baton in terms of some of the detail. I'm going to give a kind of a 30,000 foot overview. And so, as an educator, I'm thinking, yeah, we'd throw some lights out there. It'll just be like, when you pull up the car and you want to play some hoops and you put on the headlights and you're good to go. You may not always see the arc of your shot, especially if it's mine, but you're good to go. And we quickly realized that just throwing or renting a couple of lights at a moderate expense, is that safe? Is that enough illumination? And so, Mr. Allen looked deeper into, okay, how, if we did bring in portable lights, rented lights for the upper turf field at the high school, what does that look like? Well, it looks like you're going to have to commit to a little bit of an extended period of time. Not like, hey, can you bring the lights on Tuesday, take them away on Wednesday, bring them back next Monday? And then the cost factor, what we thought might be, $10,000 to $40,000, and I'm not saying that is insignificant in these fiscal times, really ended up being $70,000+ for the month of October. So the short-term answer is really about, our athletic department working with Section 11, the governing body, and working with other school districts to look at how we utilize our main field where there are lights, as well as the scheduling. A long-term answer in terms of future capital planning, now you're looking at probably a few $100,000 if you wanted to put. Well, yeah. So I'm talking in in ballpark terms. If you ever wanted to look at a future capital projects, and then again, it comes down to looking at priorities. I know one of the things that we've talked about here is air conditioning. Where is there air conditioning? Where is there not air conditioning? And then you got all the other, regular upkeep items. So that was 30,000 feet, Mr. Allen. Is there anything of substance that you feel like you want to add some further detail?
So real quickly, I did speak with Mr. Mallory today. Not only did he address the home games at the high school, he's also dealing with the away games as well. So he's coordinating with the other athletic directors to ensure that they can get as many of the JV games in across the entire season, not just the home games. So that's a big piece of this as well. When we first started hearing about this last year, we went through this whole entire process that Dr. Senamore is talking about. And the lighting, there's basic requirements. When we start talking about instructional lighting, athletic lighting and everything else, they measure it in foot candles. So we're supposed to have a certain minimum illumination in order to ensure that there's a safe environment. The simple little construction lights that we see do not do the job. One, they're overly bright for a very limited space. They cast tremendous shadows. They don't provide the balance and the horizontal light that they have to. So in order to do it, the company that is most renowned for doing field lighting is Musco. Probably every single school district on Long Island that has field lighting uses Musco. We brought them in. They did a site survey. If you know that upper turf field, there's a lot of undulation around the field. It's not just a flat surface. It's not paved. It's got some distinct challenges. So it would cost about $62,000 just for the light towers for a month. These are not light towers that are available, in Farmingdale. We pick up the phone and they can drop them off tomorrow. They'd have to come from all over the country to acquire 10 of them, and they require a minimum of a month, a rental fee for it. In addition to that, though, we would also have to provide generators to run them. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to doing that. We gave that number, or it was discussed last year during the budget process, because we were not sure if athletics was going to be able to coordinate the schedules with all the other teams. There is one other piece, as I'm talking, I'm thinking about it. Field hockey is a unique sport. There is a very limited number of refs for field hockey, and as a result, they ref the varsity games and then they flow right into the JV games. So they don't have a different set of refs to be able to do it. So they're under a bunch of different challenges when it comes to that as well. Regardless, we have this price for a temporary light service. Last year during the budget process, we decided not to move forward because we did have the feelings and the comfort that athletics could resolve it, and that's where we're at this point.
Thank you.
Just one more item on that. Mr. Mallory has worked out the schedule, as Mr. Allen pointed out. There is one away game or one game that is still being negotiated. That's on October 8th. We're just waiting to hear from the opponent team. It's a home game. It's just for JV field hockey, and we're in communication with the other school district to make some kind of a concession regarding the timing.
Great job by both of you and by Mr. Mallory.
So I most recently spoke to Mr. Mallory around 4 o'clock today, and he told me it was resolved.
That's excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. We have music arts, Ms. Napolitano-Ferno.
Some parents had brought up the school in Nassau County, Nassau BOCES, Long Island High School for the Arts, and it was just by coincidence. I literally worked down the block from it, so I know I'm very familiar with it. I'm able to stop there. I'm able to pass there frequently, so I did get some information, and I was looking into what the program is. It was the cross-county contract for Long Island Music High School. It's a half-day program, like the regular BOCES. It's visual arts, computer game design, 3D animation, film, and a few other things. Kings Park doesn't give transportation. Smithtown, Deer Park, Babylon, Huntington do provide transportation. Because I did tell a parent that I did think that this might be something that transportation would be an issue, since it's 45 minutes away on a good day with busing. They did tell me at the school that to alleviate one class back at your district for that 40-minute ride, they do give PE there now. That was something new. Again, the AP Lindsay Rogan, very nice lady. I looked into the program, and it is fantastic. It's a fabulous school. We have a robust, I'm going to use your word, Dr. C, robust and spectacular. We really do. Music and arts. I enjoy the plays here. I enjoy all of the concerts. I have to say, I'm upset my children personally as a parent don't do music anymore and aren't in the plays. But I used to love going, and now I just love going and cheering for everybody else's kids. I would love to see us just look into this. And I'm just trying to understand, parents were saying that students haven't been allowed to go in the past. Now, I know at least for the last 6 years since I've been here, I've never heard of a child being denied. But I don't know if a child just never applied because they were already told we don't partner with them. It's just something that I wanted looked into. And also, I don't know what the pricing is. That's what I told Dr. C. I'm sure that it's got to be a high price. I wanted to know, is it similar to BOCES in Suffolk, or how much more would it be? Is there some fee? And then, is there a way for us to look at, I was looking through the high school, which I have to say, we got that, you were here, I think. Did you hear we got the orange book or pink book from the high school? It was all the classes. Years ago, it's old. It's like either 2019, 2020. I got
the course guide.
Yeah, the course guide. I haven't gotten one since then. I don't know if it's online. I do like the printout, the printed copy. And I was going through it, and we do have a lot of fantastic courses. But the question I have is, how many of them are running? So, because I looked through the book and I'm like, there's no way some of these classes are wrong. I'm positive of it. There's no way. So I understand that, it's through enrollment. I know how you guys do that. But is there a way to maybe incorporate some of these if you poll or survey students to see how many would be interested, how many in the music and arts that are very heavily into it would be into either going to a BOCES, or would they like to see us try to bring some of these CTE programs in, like we're looking to do with, some of the others, the HVAC, because that's what they did in HOPOG. They brought the FAME program, which I, by the way, love the HOPOG FAME program. That's similar to, again, this is more the whole school. It's a specialty school just for that. So while I think we could do a great job giving people a taste of it, I understand why some students would like to go there. It is not in any way, a negative towards ours, because we have fantastic music and arts instructors, teachers, staff, directors, they've done great jobs. This is just more of like a small specialty school, and I'm just curious to find out more about it. Like I said, I pass it every day, probably 20, 30 times. So when the parent brought it up, I said, oh, I know that school.
So thank you for using words like robust and spectacular, and I do love that word, robust, by the way. Those words truly do describe our programs in Connecticut. I have the good fortune in my career of working in a number of districts that really did have premier music and art programs. Connecticut is outstanding. And so the answer, in my humble opinion, before I let Ms. Poppy speak in more detail, is to take outstanding and just keep looking to build upon it, because the answer is really in-house. And we love our BOCES partnerships with Easton, Weston, Nassau. I'm very familiar with Long Island School of the Arts, a fabulous venue, school. But for us, and just like the other programs, I know this is an initiative, focus of the high school. It certainly is with central office to see what programs in-house. Certainly, looking at things for the future of cosmetology, HVAC, electrical, you name it. Seeing what we can do in-house. And again, we love our BOCES partnerships. We do need a lot of help from Albany with state aid, but I don't want to digress. Ms. Poppy.
So in response to have there been requests, since I've been in this role, I've had one singleton request, and it was actually in the area of dance, which is something that at the time we didn't offer. That was the rationale. From the central administration perspective, we haven't partnered with Long Island High School for the Arts in the past. It's something we can certainly look at and we can look into in terms of costs, tuition, the different types of programs that are most in demand there that may either mirror things that we already offer at the high school or offer something distinct and different from what we already offer. So I will definitely do that research and come back with some more information.
The AP there actually said that, she gave me her number for you guys. She said that she would be willing to work, to speak to you guys about anything. She was very helpful. Again, I just spoke to her more as like a parent and I explained to her that I am a parent, that I'm also a board member. So I explained that I wanted to bring it to a board meeting if she could give me any information. And so she was very willing to. Again, like I said, it's definitely something I wanted to see fiscally, if it's something we could do, because we do have to be fiscally responsible too, but I would advocate for this. I mean, it is a nice school. I've been there. It's nice for students who, if they're looking to go to Juilliard, or they're looking to go to Hofstra Dance, or they're looking to, go on to other schools of dance, or like, I'm using dance because that's what you said. That's, this is a school that just seems to like our HVAC at BOCES. While we can bring it in, that program's been running a long time. It's, again, we have wonderful things going on here. I wanted to just give one last thing, because not to say I told you I was going to do something, I didn't do it. While walking around on the first day of school, I definitely am going to give a shout out to all of the principals, all of the staff. They were also welcoming. They walked around with us, our security, everybody who opened the school, the reopening staff, our lunch ladies, everyone. They were very welcoming. Everything was going great. I didn't see one problem with the reopening, other than my feelings on the cell phone issue. It was a very positive day. And thank you to all of the staff for doing what they do.
I just have one thing to say about the music and arts. I am all for gathering information, and I'd like to see it. I, though, do support Dr. Centimore in the fact that we do have a lot of these classes that she mentioned in-house. The film, I forget, there's a few other ones. But, and I am definitely for enhancing our programs within our school district so that every student has the opportunity, especially if you don't want to, travel or do other things, that I like the fact that they are, offered at the school.
Ms. Poppy, can I ask you a question? I know that we have partnerships with like Suffolk, Stony Brook, Farmingdale, like the Beacon program for college credit. If this is not fiscally possible, can we look into maybe the courses that we offer as part of those, and maybe we can get some visual arts and figure something out there to utilize a partnership we have?
You must have been a fly on the wall in my office recently, because that is a pathway that we are exploring at this time, and more to come on that. There's certainly a lot of research to be done in terms of what would be the most enticing for our students, would enhance our existing curricula the most and to the benefit of the greatest number. So we are doing that research currently.
What is going on with our regular BOCES? Like, that's the other thing. I want to see if our BOCES, well, with Suffolk BOCES, don't we only pay a percentage for the students?
We pay based on a rolling average of student enrollment. So right now we're paying at a rate of, I think, 127 students. And we will for this year and I believe next year. And then BOCES recalculates our enrollment based upon real numbers for that same time span. And we will realize an increase. We're certainly sending just about over 200 students. We'll know definitively next month how many, but we're looking at that 200 plus range this year alone.
Right, so that's what I want to see. If we're allowing our students to go to a Suffolk BOCES and we're paying for those programs, if there's one student or 3 students that want to go to the music arts school in Nassau County and it's comparable to Suffolk, and the only issue is going to be transportation, and that's something we can discuss on a case-by-case basis with the parents as well, I don't see why we wouldn't give kids a shot. As long as, like I said, financially, fiscally, if it's just like the other Suffolk BOCES, if we're allowing kids to go to Suffolk BOCES, why wouldn't we allow them to go to this spectacular school as well if they choose to? It's more of a full half day of their thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand what everyone's saying. I'm for bringing classes in too, but the problem is there is a difference in that this is a school that's just designed for that. The same way that we could bring in HVAC and we could still have kids who want to go to BOCES for it. That's gonna happen because there are certain things that some students feel this program's been running for this much time, and parents too. They might want to send their kids to a program that's not new. I'm just saying we have to be realist about this, and even being fiscally responsible, I want to see what's the difference. Why would we not be for something in Nassau but we're for it in Suffolk when we have all these partnering schools that will do it?
Thank you. Does anybody else have any?
Yeah, I just had one other thing that I wanted to bring up with the with the building, just a little bit of an issue that I had learned about from some parents about drop off and pickup procedures in the morning, in the afternoon. So I was just wondering, with all of our 10 buildings, is communication going out to new parents, current parents, about what to do in the parking lot? Every building is so different, their layout. So it's going to vary from building to building, just to let certain parents know, this is where you park, don't stay in the way, where people have to walk, where students have to walk, be careful driving, even staff and students that are driving in high school, everybody just be mindful not to rush through the parking lot, just these things to make sure safety is a priority at pickup and drop off times, because especially brand new parents, they're new to the building, they don't know the procedure. So I was just wondering, is communication sent out?
Well, certainly, whether it's that or whether it's aftercare programs, we're looking to strengthen and heighten communication and procedures there. But Ms. Poppy, in terms of any feedback you've gotten from the principals and conversation?
So I think that is more than likely a building by building communication. I will verify whether that anything has gone out, and if there's a particular school of concern, please let me know. However, I will say that parental communication is key in cases like these, right? So if you are witnessing something as a parent who is picking up a child, right, who is a walker or a child who's released to a parent or guardian that appears to be unsafe or something that could be corrected for the next day and the following days, it is worthwhile to reach out to the building principal just to let them know what was observed in the instance that that parent or that individual was the only one who saw it, right? Just to say, for instance, we have a kiss and go area and I'm noticing parents parking in that area instead of, keeping the flow of traffic moving fluidly in the morning. Things of that nature, or if there's something where somebody is driving rather rapidly in an area where children are being released. That's something that's worthwhile to mention to the principal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other trustee have anything? Okay. Can I call for a motion and a second to approve the financial items as presented?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I call for a motion and a second to approve the personnel items as presented?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I call for a motion and a second to approve items 2 through 12 of the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions?
I have a question. Just a quick question about number 12, the Envision Math. Because I noticed it's on here again, and I know we approved it last meeting. And I see that there's now a section called recitals in this new version. Is that the only change? How did that come about? Like, what happened that we're looking at this again?
That is the only change in that area of the contract. It's headed with the word recitals. So this professional developer who we have been working with, we worked with the same individual last year, is now working with us on a part-time basis, right? So her service to the district is reduced, but on the flip side of her employment, she is servicing another school district that's mentioned in that contract. The parent company wanted for both districts to be mentioned in the contract as a source of, their own legal process. So that's the change that you see inside that contract. Otherwise, the amounts that we are offering for this professional development and all other parts of the contract remain the same.
And the quality control.
And the quality control, of course, remains the same.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I will now open the floor for the second open public comment portion of the agenda. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping up to the podium. You should have received the number card from security on your way in. If you have not, please see a security guard in the back of the room. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president. Comments shall be kept as brief as possible and relate to school matters only. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. The use of foul language and threatening comments will not be tolerated, and the board will consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance with policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If there are additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend the time. Number 1. I thought I saw, I thought I saw you go get a number. Did you not want to speak? She's on her phone, not paying attention. No, I'm just kidding. Social studies at work.
Yeah, social studies.
I have the bingo card, so you could see it so far. So I just wanted to kind of beat the dead horse about the phones. So I go to BOCES, I attend the animal science class. I absolutely love it. They don't take our phones there, and there's kind of the expectation of you're in a workplace, you have to call in sick the night before, you have to find someone to cover your job, you have to do paperwork, you have to do all these things. Like a regular vet, you have to do everything. And they have in the guideline, I think, you're allowed to have your phone out. It just has to be face down. And obviously, like, if you need to answer it, you can. Also, because there's a lot of downtime in between dealing with animal care and dealing with human care, grooming, just a lot of things going on. So it's just kind of hard when you go back to Connecticut and then I choose classes like AP Gov, English Honors, and then it's like, oh, put your phone away because I have the option to do college level courses and then it's still like, we don't trust you with your phones. So I'm doing work like a college student. Shouldn't it be a little more like, oh, you could handle that course. We should kind of give you a little more respect in the sense of, you know what, if you fail that class, that's on you. That's a college level course. And in college, like, they're businesses. If you fail that class, you still pay for it, and oh well, that's on you. You retake it, you pay more money. So I feel like it's kind of the expectation of we're treating you like you're the absolute worst. So like there's the expectation of you are the worst. It's no like, oh, you screwed up, we're gonna give you a pink slip. You know, like I feel like it's kind of unfair in the sense of, especially what's happening nowadays with like building security and how we put so much effort into that. And then now it's like, okay, cool, your phone's locked away, which I do respect that when you leave the room, you should have your phone because God forbid, knock on wood, something happens. You should at least be able to contact someone, especially because I don't think there are speakers in the bathroom. I don't think there are any, not that I know of. So I just figured, I don't know. And I don't think the bathroom's locked from the inside or something. I don't know, but I think you should have your phone, God forbid anything. And it's just kind of frustrating because there are so many people succeeding in harder classes, and then it's still the expectation of you have these rules. Like I could understand if this was in the middle school where it's like, okay, you kind of have less self-control, but you're offering really hard classes to high schoolers, and it's like, nope. Like the expectation in BOCES is you guys are juniors and seniors. There's the expectation of performing a job. Like in my EMT class, they don't take our phones. There's the expectation of you have that self-control, and if you don't do it, you fail your test at the end of it, and you paid the money anyway. You know, like I feel like if you fail, that's on you, and it shouldn't be punished for everyone. And I understand like it's kind of less paperwork on the teachers. At the same time, like you collect the phone, then it's just like gone. But at the same time, like it's just not teaching accountability. It's assuming that everyone's the worst. And I think that kind of like puts everyone in a box that they shouldn't be. I don't know. That's my opinion. Okay, bye.
Well, thank you. And I do appreciate you sharing your perspective. And we love hearing from the lens of a student. So thank you.
I want to just tell her. And I agree with you 100%.
So April, I think you were right. I think she was number 3. Yeah, this is the first time that we've done the 2 sessions. So sorry, it was a little cumbersome.
Defer and wait.
All good. Thank you.
I'm not going to beat the mascot lawsuit into the ground again, but there was comment last time that we should let the community come and speak, and that the community spoke about this. And I wanted to use this as a segue into a point that you guys kind of made earlier with the committees. I no longer have a student in the schools. I am just a community member taxpayer. I did not get the survey last year. I got the survey because I saw it on social media. I emailed Dr. Centimore, sorry, how do you pronounce your name?
Cirillo. Yeah.
That is how I got the survey. So what I'm wondering is, I mean, I'm here. You guys know I'm here. Dr. Centimore, you've seen me at community meetings. Like, for a person who is not me, for a person who is not at all these things, but wants to know what's going on in the school district, how do they find these things out? Especially people who are not like advanced planning people. They're not like, I need to find information. Like, how as a district do you get community members information that they might need to make decisions when it's not budget time?
So that's a very good question, and questions that many other community members have had. I don't have an answer for you, but we will look into how we can get to the community that doesn't have students.
How hard would it be to add something like on our website if you'd like to sign up for notifications from us? Like, just here you go, sign up.
Right, but that ties into the conversation about working on the website, updating the website, working with our PR firm. We have been trying to push a lot of things out with social media. So those are the most likely avenues: website, social media.
Because I think of people like my parents. My parents don't live in this district. They live in another district, but like my mother just got a smartphone, rejects it to no end. So like they don't even have internet in their house. So like, I don't know if like, I know that the calendar was an issue because of cost, but I don't know if like a quarterly newsletter or like hey, there's this important thing in there that taxpayers should know about happening. Let's get like a letter out to people.
Thank you. Number 4. Okay. Can I call for a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All in favor?